3 messages before today's interview educates and motivates you. First, if you're a domain name investor, don't you have unique legal needs that require domain name technical know-how and industry experience? That's why you need David Westlow of Wiley Ryan. Go search for David Westlow on Domain Sherpa, watch his interview, and you can see for yourself that he can clearly explain issues, can help you with buy-sell agreements, deal with website content issues and UDRP actions, and even help you write your website terms and conditions. David Westlow is the lawyer to call for internet legal issues. See for yourself at newmediaip.com. Second, managing multiple domain name marketplace and auction site accounts is a pain. Inevitably, you forget to sign into one and you lose a great domain, or worse. Now imagine using a single, simple to use and comprehensive control panel to manage all of your accounts. That's Protrata. You can set up search filters, analyze domains, automate bidding, list domain names for sale, buy domains across all major marketplaces. Protrata also has a new semantic engine that builds Google-friendly websites with rich content and network feeds. Sign up at protrata.com to get 20 free credits and start building and monetizing your domains today. Finally, if you have questions about domain names, where should you go to ask them? The answer is dnforum.com. Not only is DN Forum the largest domain name forum in the world, it's the best. You can learn about domain names and the industry, buy and sell domain names, talk about the domain name news that's happening in the industry, and even meet domainers just like yourself. Register for a free DN Forum account and begin advancing your skills and knowledge today. And when you do sign up, send me a friend request so we can connect on DN Forum. Here's your program. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Seiger and I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, the website where you come to learn how to become a more successful domain name entrepreneur directly from the experts. I attended Domain Fest in Santa Monica this past February. I was heading out one morning, going for a run before breakfast, and a domain investor at the conference was coming back in from a workout. We met at the elevator. It was a quick and fantastic introduction. The businessman's name is Bill McClure. I heard about him from others at the event, and I was so disappointed that I didn't run into him again at the event to learn more about his businesses and his investments. So I contacted him to come onto the show, and he was gracious enough to accept. So today's question is this: how do you create a successful, diversified, family-run business using domain names? Joining us to answer the question is Bill McClure, CEO of WJM.com. Bill is a domain name investor with over 3,000 domain names. And Bill, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Nice to see you, Michael.
So let's start with this, Bill. I said 3,000 domain names that you own. We had a pre-interview conversation and traded a couple emails. How do those 3,000 domain names break out by market, by domain extension? How do you classify them?
Most of them are by different categories is the way we classify them in businesses that we're in. We're in the insurance business with a number of different, both personal insurance, commercial insurance, our son owns. And then we're also in the flower business, and we have a number of flower domains. We have moving. We own a lot of real estate and mortgage domains. Those are not really built out and monetized. We also have coffee and a number of beverage domains, about 300 in the coffee field.
You said 300 in the coffee field?
Yes, so like businesscoffee.com, hotelcoffee.com, cheapestcoffee.com. We own coffee.org, which we operate on, and we ship about 550 products nationwide to over 44,000 customers.
Wow. So you've got some domain names that are just fantastic domains, not only by themselves, but also for search engine optimization. So you own, I think you said, cheapestcoffee.com?
That is correct. When we look at a market that we're going to enter, before we actually enter the market, we try to assemble the real estate around it. And we look at it as being a small town and you want to own the different corners of the market. For instance, when we were looking at getting into the coffee business, we wanted to serve the hotel coffee industry. We felt like hotelcoffee.com was a good acquisition. We bought it. We then found the people that owned businesscoffee.com. Most recently, we acquired coffeesupplies.com. We typically look for a domain that's at least 10 years old, and then by the time we get 100 or 200 domains in a market, we look and see how we're going to monetize it and begin to develop the business.
Yeah. And how much do you typically pay for domains like coffeesupplies.com or businesscoffee or cheapestcoffee.com?
Those are what we consider middle market, $10,000 to $20,000. The coffee.org we paid $100,000 for, and that's on the upper side of what we typically buy. But our sweet spot is domains of $5,000 to $20,000.
Yeah. So that's quite an investment that you're making in a category or a market, let's say coffee, to buy 100 domains that are aged, that are probably have a decent amount of search volume. That's quite an investment to buy 100 of those types of domains before you start building them out.
Well, when we enter a market, we're going to take it lightly. We felt like that's really not a lot of money when you're going to build up a multi-million-dollar company. It's just part of our strategy to be able to get the organic traffic and to also prevent other people from owning those domains. We made a mistake in coffee.org by going really vocal about our acquisition and how much we paid before we had closed a number of these domains. The price of the coffee domains rose very quickly following that acquisition. And so for the next 2 or 3 months, the price of buying coffee domains just skyrocketed on me, and that was my own fault. So today I don't do that. We look at a market, we go in and we acquire it what we consider reasonable prices. We're not bottom fishers. We're not going to beat you up if it's a domain we think we want to own, but we'll pay a fair price and we pay it quickly. And then when we've assembled all of the domains in that marketplace we want to own or we feel like we can afford, then we develop the business.
And so we talked, the big question is, how do you create a family-run business that's successful? Who in your family is involved in your domain name businesses?
Well, we have all 5 of our children. Actually, one of our sons is not involved in our business today, but he has been and hopefully will be in the future. Gabe, one of our sons, runs part of the business. He's involved in the coffee business, the insurance, the moving, and the flower business. Our daughter, Emmy, is also involved in the accounting, and she's involved in all of the businesses in one form or another. Ellie is Miss Ellie, and it's Miss Ellie's Coffee, and she's a co-founder of coffee.org, and she's also a full-time realtor now. Our son, Mark, is in the commercial insurance business, and Mark and I have been partners for a number of years in different online ventures. But he's now on his own with commercialinsurance.net and writes in 40-some states and has appointed by a number of carriers. Great.
So I've got 4 kids there: Gabe, Emmy, Ellie, Mark. Is there another one?
And Scott. Scott is our other son. He's not currently involved in our business, but he has been, and we hope he is down the road.
Yeah. Now, do you have anybody else involved?
Well, we have, yes. My wife is involved in our company, and her 2 sisters work for us from time to time. One of them, Sammy, is in charge of customer service at coffee.org. Well, we have a whole lot of family involved, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I can vouch for that as well. My previous media company, I mentioned to you, my wife worked on it. My father-in-law, who's been in publishing and editing for years, came out of retirement to help us take the business to the next level. We had my mother-in-law involved, and there's nothing like having your family involved in a business that gives you fulfillment, that lets you know that you can trust them, that you're all in it together. It's a wonderful feeling.
Well, I grew up in a small family business. My family was in the funeral business, and we owned a little funeral home in western Oklahoma. And we acquired other firms as a young entrepreneur. And that's how I really got my start, was serving families in the funeral business.
Yeah. So let's go back. You said that you're in the pre-interview, we talked about how your family was in the funeral business and that you actually made your first investment. You took your entrepreneurial step in the funeral business also. What was that first step?
The first, I bought my dad's competitor out when I was 19, and with the help of my dad. And and I was still in mortuary school at the time, and he ran it while I was in school. And when I got out, then I ran both of our places. We had 2 of them at the time, and we bought 5 others and grew that business. There was a roll up in that industry in the early 80s, and had a chance to sell and sold out and moved on into the investment banking business. So
how big did you build your funeral home business into before you sold it?
We did about 300 cases a year altogether. That's a pretty good size. That was a good sized business in those days.
Yeah, and then it was another service that was just rolling up funeral homes, trying to get scale and scale financing benefits by getting that sort of scale, and they acquired your businesses also.
Yes, well, in the early 80s, there was a significant roll up by 3 companies in the funeral industry, and they were paying 10 to 13 times earnings.
Wow!
And I felt like, as a young man, that was a really good time to sell. It probably, hindsight would tell you that they were worth a lot more than that long term, but that was my first sale. So I moved on into other businesses. And
then you became an investment banker, you said?
Went to work at Capital Alliance in Dallas, and then was a co-founder of Amerimark Capital. We invested in some different companies, and one of them happened to be a company in Florida that was in the flower business, and I ended up moving to Tampa to run that business.
So it was an investment of the financial company that you worked for, and then you went to that location, you went to Florida to actually run that business unit.
Yeah, there was in part of the acquisition of the seller was that I would come down there and be an active member of that acquisition, and so I did, and then we expanded that business.
And what flower business was that at the time?
That Universal American Flowers is called UAF, and it served the grocery industry in the Tampa, Florida market, in the North Florida market. And had about 3 major customers in the grocery. We grew that all up and down the East Coast and as far west as Dallas to supply grocery chains, fresh flowers.
And how big did that company get?
About 17 million. Grew it from a few million when we acquired it to 17 million over the next 8 to 10 years.
Wow. And then what happened to that business, or what happened to you working with that business?
Not long after we acquired UAF, we felt like that there was a good opportunity to go directly to the consumer, from the grower to the consumer. Mm-hmm. The concept at the time was to direct ship it by product by Federal Express. And so we looked to see how we might enter the consumer market. A company called Flowers Direct was an 800 company. It had 800 phone lines. We acquired it. It was based in Boca Raton at the time, and moved it to Charlotte, North Carolina. We put in a call center. We found pretty quickly that the direct ship to the consumer was not a model that we felt like we could build on. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up getting the local florist to do the delivery of it.
Right.
And that worked very well. And that business grew. And we eventually added on, the internet came along at least our part of it, in 96, I think is when we registered our first domain. Mm-hmm. And grew that business. That didn't really jump right out and take off. We had technical problems, and for the first 3 or 4 years, we had technical people that were building the websites. Very little of our business was internet.